It is queer that things have gone downhill with him, as badly as that, said the daughter. Last night I did not think there was anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man. Now Edla was suspicious somewhere. Okay, she was, having a kind of ambiguity in her mind about the person and his exposure. She said to her father that somewhere when I met him, I couldn't find anything that can be able to give me an indication about his education and about his a person to be in army somewhere. You must have patience, my little girl, said the father. As soon as he gets clean and dressed up, you will see something different. Last night he was naturally embarrassed. The tramp manner will fall away from him with the tramp clothes. But the father, he was stuck to his opinion because he couldn't, overtake his assumption that he had at his meal. So he said to her daughter that doesn't matter. It seems with the clothes, someone's exposure, it can be modified, it can be transformed, but as the clothes will be removed from his body and he will be given a good look, perhaps you will be able to feel that you are wrong with your prior with your preconceived notion, but he will be a person whom I took as with my opinion. Just as he said this, the door opened and the stranger entered. Yes, now he was truly clean and well dressed. The valet had bathed him, cut his hair, and shaved him. Moreover, he was dressed in a good looking suit of clothes which belonged to the ironmaster. He wore a white shirt and a starched collar and whole shoes. So ultimately, the man was given the touch that is being taken by the elite class of people and mostly the civilized people. Okay, the valet, the servant, okay, he actually had bathed him. Okay, he cut his hair and shaved him. Ultimately, he was given the clothes that belonged to the iron master, and a complete gentlemanly look was he having actually. But although his guest was now so well groomed, the ironmaster did not seem pleased. He looked at him with puckered brow, and it was easy to understand that when he had seen the strange fellow in the uncertain reflection from the furnace, he might have made a mistake. But that now, when he stood there in broad daylight, it was impossible to mistake him for an old acquaintance. And as with this exposure, the truth also got disclosed because the time when the iron master firstly met the tramp, that time he was in the dim light and he was nearby the furnace, he was beside the furnace, but now he is in broad daylight and in front of him as he was standing. So now there will be no chance for the iron master to get confused or get, you can call, misunderstood someone. What does this mean? He thundered. The stranger made no attempt to dissimulate. He saw at once that the splendor had come to an end. And as he spoke in a loud voice, immediately the vagabond understood that whatever he had planned and whatever pleasure that he was supposed to have in his mind, that has come to an end. It is not my fault, sir, he said. I never pretended to be anything but a poor trader, and I pleaded and begged to be allowed to stay in the forge, but no harm has been done. At worst, I can put my on my rags again and go away. As he was ready, so he started disclosing everything, that I didn't make any harm to anyone. Okay, if you are not satisfied with me, then immediately I can put on back my rags and I can go out from here. Well, said the ironmaster, hesitating a little, it was not quite honest either, you must admit that, and I should not be surprised if the sheriff would like to have something to say in the matter. So ultimately, the legal threatening was given to him that ironmaster wanted him to go out from his house. Ultimately, otherwise he was, required to call sheriff. Sheriff means an officer of the law. The tramp took a step forward and struck to the table with his fist. Now I'm going to tell you, Mr. Ironmaster, how things are, he said. This whole world is nothing but a big rat trap. All the good things that are offered to you are nothing but cheese, rinse, and bit of pokes set out to drag a poor fellow into trouble. And if the sheriff comes now and locks me up for this, then you, Mr. Ironmaster, must remember that a day may come when you yourself may want to get a big piece of pork, and then you will get caught in the trap. So ultimately, he started recalling his philosophy, old philosophy. It happens with everyone. Whenever, like a parrot who was taught who was learned Ram Ram. Ultimately, when a cat caught him, he cried time time. This time, as he found himself getting entangled and getting more puzzled by the sheriff also, so he started saying the whole world is like the rat trap, and everyone, either he or she, is having his or her own pre-decided trap. Today, it might be that sheriff would come and he would lock him up, but ultimately one day will come that the Iron Master will also be locked behind the worldly rat trap. It might be that he would be entrapped by a bigger poke. The Iron Master began to laugh out of the stupidity and absurd conversation of, the tramp. That was not so badly said, my good fellow. Perhaps we should let the sheriff alone on Christmas Eve. But now get out of here as fast as you can. But just as the man was opening the door, the daughter said, I think he ought to stay with us today. I don't want him go. And with that she went and closed the door. This is the actual twist of your chapter. This is the actual entry of the honesty of someone's heart that entered now. Students, whenever in life, whatever we had, ultimately the things that will be recalled by you, that would matter, that would be the only things that where you could be able to touch someone's heart, where you could be able to pour your honesty on someone, where you could be able to prove yourself as the perfect human beings in front of someone. Now this time what happened, as he was required to go out the house and he was about to open the door, suddenly Edla Wilmanson, he stopped him. He said he ought to stay with us tonight, and she closed the door. It might be strange for us at this moment. It might be quite queer for us, quite weird for us. But this is somewhere not connected to some personalized matter, but it is connected to the humanitarian mind. How? What in the world are you doing? Said the father. The daughter stood there quite embarrassed and hardly knew what to answer. That morning she had felt so happy when she thought how homelike and Christmassy she was going to make things for the poor hungry wretch. She could not get away from the idea all at once, and that was why she had interceded for the vagabond. Ultimately, the idea that she had in her heart, while she was creating more and more dishes, she was preparing something special for the wretch, for the unfortunate one. Okay, she felt a touch of humanitarian essence in her heart, and she was expecting that this Christmas and this night and this day, when she is going to serve someone who is really deserving and who really needs this treatment, made her somewhere purified, made her somewhere honest, and that this honesty she doesn't like and she didn't want to actually lose. So that's why she confronted in front of her father. I am thinking of this stranger here, said the young girl. He walks and walks the whole year long, and there is probably not a single place in the whole country where he is welcome and can feel at home. Wherever he turns, he is chased away. Always he is afraid of being arrested and cross-examined. I should like to have him enjoy a day of peace with us here, just one in the whole year. Ultimately, she disclosed with the honest heart. She said, whatever he is, either he is a captain or he is a vagabond, it hardly matters. But throughout his globe-rotting activities, throughout his nomadic life, if we are able to give him just one day of a piece of peace, perhaps we can be able to justify our Christmas better. The Iron Master mumbled something on his beard. He could not bring himself to oppose her. It was all a mistake, of course, she continued. But anyway, I don't think we ought to chase away a human being whom we have asked to come here, and to whom we have promised Christmas cheer. Ultimately, she furthermore said, by adding on that we invited him, we actually called him, or else he was not interested in coming with us. So at least the welcome, at least the invitation that we made for him, let it be just for one day, Dad. You do preach worse than a parson, said the Iron Master. I only hope you won't have to regret this. Ultimately, he gave up. He said, I hope things should go on in a common way, and at the end, you should not regret on your own decision. The young girl took the stranger by the hand and led him up to the table. Now sit down and eat, she said, for she could see that her father had given in. The man with the red traps said not a word. He only sat down and helped himself to the food. Now there is the entry of silence in the red trap. In the red trap's personality, the silence is what? This is the ultimate transformation that we, actually not we, but the nature expects from everyone one day. If it is accepted, if it is welcomed, if it is done, then perhaps someone can mark, someone can attest the real personality that the God has blessed him. Time after time, he looked at the young girl who had interceded for him. Why had she done it? What could the crazy idea be? As I told you earlier, when someone is able to touch your heart, okay, it makes you think, rethink deeply and precisely. So he kept on thinking, why did she do like that? What made her crazy towards me? And this, you can call it, this is a kind of introspection that made him silent. And in the silence, he kept on thinking and rethinking. After that Christmas Eve at Ramsayo passed, just as it always had. The stranger did not cause any trouble because he did nothing but sleep. The whole forenoon, he lay on the sofa in one of the guest rooms and slept at one stretch. At noon, they woke him up so that he could have his share of the good Christmas fare. But after that he slept again. It seemed as though for many years he had not been able to sleep as quietly and safely as here at Ramsayo. Now there is a comfort zone, there is a kind of lightness, and there is a kind of relaxation in the personality of Vagabond. He kept on sleeping. Either it was daytime, either it was afternoon time. Only he was woken up when he was about to share his Christmas fare. This happened because ultimately he, whatever he wanted and whatever that he had been searching throughout the life, that he found over here. Okay, a nice welcome, a humanitarian welcome, and moreover a humanitarian and an honest respect. In the evening, when the Christmas tree was lighted, they woke him up again and he stood for a while in the drawing room, blinking as though the candlelights hurt him. But after that, he disappeared again. 2 hours later, he was aroused once more. He then had to go down into the dining room and eat the Christmas fish and porridge. Again, there was calmness. Again, there was mildness in him. Okay, the mildness that he himself was not expecting from himself. He came in the dining room. He came in front of the candlelight, blinking his eyes because his eyes were not adjusted to that kind of splendor that he had. As soon as they got up from the table, he went around to each one present and said thank you and good night. But when he came to the young girl, she gave him to understand that it was her father's intention that the suit which he wore was to be a Christmas present. He did not have to return it, and if he wanted to spend next Christmas Eve in a place where he could rest in peace and be sure that no evil would befall him, he would be welcomed back again. Even after, okay, a sort of deceptive nature, even after, you can call, okay, cheating upon with the old acquaintance of the Iron Master, the girl gave him that sort of respect that is supposed to be given by every human to another human, with an assurance that whenever in the life, whenever the Christmas Eve falls, he will be welcomed. If he thinks that he wants to be having rest, okay, he should come or he can come at the door. The door will always be open for him, and he can be able to be having the peaceful day and night over there. Again, this was another piece of comfort, another piece of honesty that he was not expecting from the world, because he was, a person who had only bitter experiences with the world. The man with the red traps did not answer anything to this. He only stared at the young girl in boundless amazement. The next morning, the Iron Master and his daughter got up in a good season to go to the early Christmas service. Their guest was still asleep, and they did not disturb him. Again there was sleep. Again there was silence. Because in the sleep, in the silence, there was a sort of churning, there was a sort of transformation, there was a sort of modification that was continuously going on in his personality. He kept on staring at the girl, he kept on thinking and rethinking about the real world that he never thought before and earlier. When at about 10 o'clock, they drove back from the church. The young girl sat and hung her head even more dejectedly than usual. At church, she had learned that one of the old crofters of the ironworks had been robbed by a man who went around selling rat traps. Truth cannot be hidden for a long time actually. Partially it can be curbed, but ultimately the disclosure of truth now it comes. She came across about the robbing or about the task of robbing that the red trap seller did at the one of the old crofter's house. Yes, that was a fine fellow you let into the house, said her father. I only wonder how many silver spoons are left in the cupboard by this time. Ultimately, father, who was saying her earlier also that if the things you can handle and if the things can be in a proper and a common way, okay, the thing will belong to you only. But ultimately now he started shouting upon her. He said, oh, I told you earlier also you are going to invite a puzzlement at your home, but you did. He was going, but you didn't let him go. Now you see, at house when you go back, you will be having many silver spoons disappear from our house. The wagon had already stopped at the front of steps when the ironmaster asked the valet. The valet answered that the fellow had gone and that he had not taken anything with him at all. On the contrary, he had left behind a little package, which Miss Wilmanson was to be kind enough to accept as a Christmas present. The things were common at home. The things were as usual as home. The valet informed them that he had gone, but he left only one present for Miss Wilmanson, if she is kind enough to accept it as a Christmas present. The young girl opened the package, which was so badly done up that the contents came into a view at once. She gave a little cry of joy. She found a small red trap, and in it lay 3 wrinkled 10 kroner notes. But that was not all. In the red trap lay also a letter written in large, jagged letters. मेरा मुझ में कुछ नहीं, जो कुछ है सो तेरा. तेरा तुझको अर्पण क्या लागे मेरा. This is the essence of life that comes ultimately at the end. At the end. This is called renunciation. This is called giving up with happiness and with, you can call, with a full, joy and merriment. This happened over here. The silence, the introspection, all that was happening, okay, it was not futile. It was actually meaningful because the 30 kronors that he robbed were in the packet. The rat trap was in the packet. Even there was one letter, and the letter was the result of his introspection. Honored and noble Miss, since you have been so nice to me all day long, as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return, as if I was a real captain. For I do not want you to be embarrassed at this Christmas season by a thief, but you can give back the money to the old man on the roadside, who has the money pouch hanging on the window frame as a bait for poor wanderers. This is the result of the introspection. He's saying, you little girl, you are not required to be embarrassed. You are not required to get disregard by the other ones. After inviting and after welcoming a thief, you behaved with me like a captain. You served me, okay, as if I was a captain, and now it becomes my duty that I should maintain the decorum of a captain. I am returning those 30 kronors that I robbed from the old crofter's house as they were dangling, which was like a bat and an allurement for the wanderers. And last, the rat trap is a Christmas present from a rat who would have been caught in the world's rat trap if he had not been raised to captain, because in that way he got power to clear himself. And why I'm leaving a rat trap, okay, why I'm leaving a rat trap over here only? Because this is the home, this is the house, and you are the only person who could be able to make me understand how to get rid of this worldly rat trap. And ultimately I found my way. Now I am free from this rat trap, from this worldly rat trap, and the symbolism of the theft that I used to do. At least now in my entire life I would be having a sort of honesty, a sort of purification. Let me be with that only. And whatever that you did for someone after either misunderstanding or after either, okay, and any kind of confusion, but return with friendship and high regard, Captain wants to. Now for you, I am neither a vagabond nor a tramp, but I am a captain whom you called, and I would always be your captain. I would maintain this captain, you can call essence, in my life throughout.